The years from 1970 to 2000 marked one of the most complex and transitional periods in American history. After decades of post-war dominance, the United States entered an era defined by uncertainty, reform, technological change, and the eventual end of the Cold War. This period reshaped how Americans viewed government, the economy, and their role in the world. The early 1970s, trust in crisis, as the 1970s began. The nation was still deeply scarred by the Vietnam War. Years of televised combat, mounting casualties, and political deception had eroded public confidence in American leadership. When U.S. forces withdrew from Vietnam in 1973, the war left behind a divided society and a lasting sense of disillusionment. That distrust intensified with the Watergate scandal. Investigations revealed that President Richard Nixon's administration had engaged in illegal surveillance and a cover-up of political wrongdoing. In 1974, Nixon resigned from office, becoming the first U.S. president to do so. The scandal permanently changed the relationship between Americans and their government, leading to increased oversight, transparency laws, and skepticism toward political power. Economic challenges and social change. The 1970s were also marked by economic instability. Oil embargoes by Middle Eastern nations in 1973 and 1979 triggered fuel shortages, long gas lines, and sharp increases in energy prices. The U.S. economy experienced stagflation, a rare combination of high inflation, slow growth, and rising unemployment. At the same time, America's industrial base began to decline. Factories closed across the Midwest and Northeast, while manufacturing jobs moved overseas. This shift accelerated the nation's transition toward a service-based and financial economy, fundamentally changing the American workforce. Social movements continued to reshape society. The environmental movement gained political power, resulting in the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency and Landmark. Legislation such as the Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act, women's rights expanded through greater workforce participation and legal reforms, while Native American activism and LGBTQ advocacy became increasingly visible. The 1980s conservative revival and global tension. The election of Ronald Reagan in 1980 marked a major political realignment. Reagan promoted free market policies, tax cuts, reduced regulation, and a strong national defense. His administration argued that economic growth would be driven by private enterprise rather than government intervention. The 1980s saw periods of economic recovery, but also widening income inequality and growing national debt. Urban areas struggled with poverty and crime, while wealth increasingly concentrated at the top of society. Internationally, Reagan initially took a hard line against the Soviet Union, increasing military spending and describing the USSR as an evil empire. The nuclear arms race intensified and fears of global conflict remained high. However, by the mid to late 1980s, relations began to change. Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev introduced reforms that reduced Cold War tensions. In 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall became a powerful symbol of the collapse of communist control in Eastern Europe, signaling that the Cold War was nearing its end. Cultural transformation in the 1980s. American culture during the 1980s was shaped by mass media and consumerism. Cable television expanded nationwide, transforming news coverage and entertainment. Networks such as CNN introduced 24-hour news, altering how Americans experienced global events. Music, film, and advertising became central forces in shaping identity and values. MTV revolutionized the music industry, while Hollywood films projected American culture worldwide. These trends reinforced the United States' influence as a global cultural power. The 1990s, after the Cold War. The Cold War officially ended in 1991 with the collapse of the Soviet Union. For the first time in decades, the United States faced no rival superpower. This shift raised new questions about America's role in maintaining global stability. That same year, the US led an international coalition in the Gulf War to reverse Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. The conflict demonstrated America's technological and military superiority in the post-Cold War world. Domestically, the 1990s were largely a period of economic growth. Advances in computer technology and the rapid spread of the Internet transformed communication, business, and education. The rise of Silicon Valley symbolized a new economy driven by information, innovation, and global connectivity. Politics and society. In the 1990s, President Bill Clinton's administration oversaw economic expansion, declining unemployment, and federal budget surpluses. However, political polarization intensified, and Clinton's presidency was marked by scandal and impeachment in 1998. Despite this turmoil, the overall stability of the decade reinforced public optimism about the future. American society became increasingly diverse during this time. Immigration reshaped cities and communities, while debates over globalization, trade, and cultural identity became more prominent. Approaching the new millennium. As the year 2000 approached, the United States stood at a crossroads. The nation was more technologically advanced and globally connected than ever before. At the same time, concerns about economic inequality, political division, and international security remained unresolved. The period from 1970 to 2000 transformed America from a Cold War power defined by confrontation into a global leader navigating a rapidly changing world. The decisions, innovations, and conflicts of these 3 decades laid the foundation for the challenges of the 21st century.